Watch this.
It's Friday. You know what that means? Time to wrap up the week here on the 208. Here's what's ahead. A water fight. One that is less fun than one with water guns and balloons. This one over supply and laws. And we follow the topic all week. And here on Friday, we have a big update for groundwater users. First responders are there to help in times of trauma. But for one Idaho firefighter, the job hasn't been without its long-term effects on his mental health. Clint Eastwood's Bronco Billy debuted this week in 1980, filmed across the Treasure Valley. Some Idahoans got a unique window into a Hollywood setting right here in the Gem State. Turned out to be a water week here on the 208. We followed the negotiations between water stakeholders as a looming curtailment or water shutoff got closer to reality for groundwater users. Yes, groundwater users in specific parts of Idaho were identified by state water managers as being out of compliance with mitigation efforts that were last agreed on in 2015 negotiations. This week, the major focus was on negotiations to make sure that water was kept on in the short term. But there's also a commitment to find a long-lasting solution into the future. Non-compliant groundwater users were given 15 days from May 30th to join a compliant district to avoid curtailment. Clock ticking, and there is still not a deal here on Friday, but there is good news for groundwater users. The Idaho Department of Water Resources director says there is now a pause on conducting compliance field inspections, and this is in direct relation to substantial progress in settlement negotiations between all sides. IDWR says that many groundwater users had stopped irrigating and were complying with the curtailment order. And the Idaho Department of Water Resources tells us they did not turn off any wells or physically require anyone to stop irrigation during their field inspections. And sources tell me that they are hopeful for a deal in the coming days. Comprehensive look from multiple perspectives is up on our website at ktvb.com and at the KTVB YouTube channel. We get questions every week, if not daily, about the various lawsuits Idaho is wrapped up in, mostly ones with Idaho laws. And we have an update to Idaho's bathroom bill, one that basically says students in public schools need to use bathrooms, locker rooms, and changing facilities that match their biological sex. It's a 2023 Idaho law. Basically a law that prevents transgender students from going to their preferred restroom. The Biden administration had previously published rules under Title IX that would have prevented those laws from going into effect in August. Under Title IX provisions, those rules, we have learned, are now paused. This allows Idaho's bathroom law to be back in play. So here's what happened. A federal judge in Louisiana handed down a preliminary injunction against the new Title IX rules pushed by President Biden's Department of Education. Idaho Attorney General Raul Labrador shared a statement telling us that the new rules misinterpret Title IX's ban on sex discrimination and would now require schools to allow students access to bathrooms and locker rooms inconsistent with their sex. So that is paused for now. The bathroom bill is on the books. We'll see, though, if other court actions change this again, and we'll keep everybody updated into the new school year that begins in the fall. Okay, during this past legislative session in the budgeting realm, there was a snafu that we covered for you at the end of the session with the vocational rehab budget. Something was mismanaged and the budget came up short, and there was questions about vendors getting paid. The administrator of that division, Jane Donnellan, got asked a lot of hard questions in front of JFAC that she really didn't have answers to. Well, kind of a continuation from that story, we have learned on May 31st, Donnellan resigned her job. We asked the Idaho State Board of Education, which oversees the agency, why she stepped down, but they said they could not comment because it is a personnel issue. Earlier this week, though, the Idaho Board of Education appointed Judy Taylor as the interim administrator of the Division of Vocational Rehab. Taylor is currently the director of the Idaho Commission of Aging. She'll continue to work there, as well as the temporary VR job, while the board looks for a permanent replacement.
The job that
A first responder can be there on the worst or best days of a person's life. They can help usher in a new life or arrive on the scene to a fatal crash. And the tasks of a first responder takes a physical and mental toll on a person. How could it not? For one Idaho firefighter, it's brought on a post-traumatic stress disorder, and a unique approach to treating his trauma is now being told on the big screen. Here's our Aspen Shumpert.
The job that sees disaster, grief, and heartache on a daily basis.
You might experience 7 to 10 traumatic events in your life. First responders, it's like 1,000 in my career.
For second-generation firefighter Rob Christensen, coping with that came in various forms.
I started getting counseling, 5 years into it, maybe 3 years into the job. My first counseling appointment, like I said, I was ashamed that I had to go there, that I was weaker than everybody. But what I soon learned was that the clinician I chose saw other first responders. And she's like, "You're not alone." I'm like, "Really?" She's like, "Oh yeah, you're not alone at all."
He also participates in regular meditation, but a new type of therapy caught his attention a few years ago.
That there was history of, oh, it's a drug and you take it and you go party.
He's talking about ketamine, a controlled substance that is legal to use only in a medical setting. After discussions with his doctors and family, he thought it was the right time for him to add ketamine therapy into his toolbox to help with PTSD and PTSI.
I was scared. What was I going to be when I came out, right? Was I still going to be me?
For 6 weeks in 2022, Rob underwent assisted ketamine therapy in a Boise ketamine clinic. A combination of preparatory psychotherapy sessions, a number of intramuscular and intravenous injections, and solo psychotherapy to end it. He explained his experience like emptying a backpack.
We just keep throwing rocks in there, and pretty soon we can't carry it anymore. And it's going to break us down to where we can't think straight, we can't sleep, we are looking for self-medication.
And a Wyoming filmmaker and photographer wanted to catch it all on camera.
I'm a suicide loss survivor, so I lost my dad, Stephen, to suicide when I was 12 years old, and that kind of put me on a path where I am just very passionate about mental health topics.
The source and their home was a specific choice for Brandon.
I came to learn that the American West has the nation's highest rates of suicide. The Bay Area don't need more convincing about psychedelics. There's already huge adoption there, whereas a place like Idaho, there might not be as much common sort of acceptance and understanding around these compounds.
Before Rob started ketamine therapy, he wasn't sure what he'd get out of it.
I really, to be honest, I felt like I had worked through all of what I was carrying. I thought my backpack was pretty empty, but I found that the bottom of that thing was some hard cement that just wasn't out yet. And
Rob says after sessions, he'd be exhausted, but also felt lighter.
Oh, wow, things are a little bit brighter, music's a little bit better, right? Food's a little bit better, and just my gratitude and just the love I had in my heart was even more than prior to.
The footage was turned into a short film published by the New York Times this March.
There were certainly moments watching him go through the therapy where I felt like I was able to relate through moments of my own experience, with my own trauma or whatever. It actually opened me to the possibility of doing my own course of ketamine therapy to treat my own PTSD. So
for Rob, he wanted others to know support is out there for everyone.
And I had a dear friend call me, and he said, "You saved my life." I'm like, "What?" And he said, "I watched the documentary twice." And he just couldn't control his emotions, was crying. His wife came home, and finally it was out on the table, and he had to say how he felt, that he was considering suicide. To play a small role into where he's at now, and he's gotten help, and he is back at work, it's just, I'm grateful for that.
And tonight, the film will have its first in-person showing here in Boise at the Idaho Film Society downtown. The first show is at 7 p.m. and it sold out, but they added a second showing for 8:30 p.m. tonight that you can still get tickets to. In between the two shows will be a question and answers portion where everyone can ask Rob, Brandon, the director, and the doctor involved in this process questions. Joe.
It's a fascinating look at, I guess, the evolution of medicine. I would imagine, 15, 20 years ago, this would not even be on the table.
Yeah.
So very fascinating work. And if you want to read more about it, you can check out ktvb.com. Aspen will have that up for you in a little bit.
That's right.
We'll be right back.
You know, when it was being filmed, they spent a lot of money here. That production company, you'd see them out about town, you know, spending money.
The quickest hombre this side of the Pecos, that's Bronco Billy.
On Tuesday this week, we told you about the anniversary of the premiere of Bronco Billy this week in 1980. The Western was filmed all over the Treasure Valley over 2 months in the fall of 1979. June 11th, 1980, the Treasure Valley hit the silver screen. Clint Eastwood wasn't the only familiar face on screen. There were more than 1,500 Idaho locals cast in Bronco Billy. And a lot of you had some great stories to share about your Hollywood moment. Like Carolyn in Caldwell, who said she was in the carnival scene with a bunch of her co-workers. She can never find herself in the movie, but she got some great pictures with Clint Eastwood. And Gabe Boonen in Meridian worked for a local bank that helped the production company open some accounts for the production and helped Bronco Billy's finance team with all the expenses. Gay was also in the carnival scene and paid $25 to play games and enjoy the rides. Couldn't see themselves in the movie, but what a fun time. And those were just 2 stories that were great. And there were 2 more of those that we saw and we wanted to find out more about. So we went straight to the source. Idahoans from across the valley staked their claim to fame in 1979 when Clint Eastwood's Bronco Billy rolled into town for extended filming. More than 1,500 locals appeared as extras on the film set, but some got up close and personal.
Being at the bank that's downtown Meridian, it's basically, you know, it's the community hub of the city. You know, everybody that did anything in Meridian knew where Farmers and Merchants was.
Mike Myers and his family were around the filming for weeks.
That was a cool time. Things were a lot simpler back in the 80s. Just, there was no internet, you know.
Yeah. Bronco Billy! In terms of the many scenes filmed in the valley, there is a Myers family favorite.
All right, everybody up against the wall.
The best part of the movie is my mom getting thrown across the bank. When they first say, this is a stick up, you see my mom go, like that. Oh, that was her iconic face. That was when she was teaching me how to drive at 14 years old, but there's a sound that goes with it too. When she makes that face, it's like that. She makes that noise when she, and so that was, the funny thing was, well, at least they got my mom doing what she does all the time.
It was a short scene, but it left a mark.
She did have a bruise on where they grabbed her, on her wrist. I remember that.
Brett Titmus got to work closely on set with the cast and crew, a unique perspective many didn't get. He found himself working the kitchen.
I was making myself a breakfast burrito one morning because I was hungry, and Clint comes up to the window and he looks at me and he says, "What are you making?" And I says, "Just a breakfast burrito." "What's that?" "Can you make me one?" And I said, "Sure." And he come on in the trailer and he sat there watching me make it.
Breakfast burritos became the daily bond between a 24-year-old Brett and a big screen star.
He's just another guy. He was always smiling, always happy, willing to help you out, doing anything. And he just always, you know, he kept asking me, "When are you going to be on my show? When are you going to?" "I don't have time. I'm too busy fixing stuff." And he finally got me into a couple scenes.
So what to talk about with the rising actor, destined for greatness?
Just normal everyday stuff. All we did was talk about, you know, what happened the day before or what was going to go on for the next day and his life and how it's been being an actor and the struggles that he'd gone through, and same thing with me, the struggles of my short life.
As filming finalized in fall of '79, Clint Eastwood had a special thank you for the breakfast burrito boy.
He gave me his personal script
with a personalized message to match.
"Brett, your food is great and you've been a good friend. I'll stay in touch. Your friend, Clint Eastwood." That was his script. He folded that, rolled that up, threw it around. That was his script. He's putting on his embroidered Western shirt. It's black and white with fringe on the sleeves.
Brett has a unique window into the movie. He can see who really stuck to the script.
Yeah, when I've watched the movie at times, I'll sit there and I'll pull this out and I'll just go, okay, let's start this out right. So
For Brett, Mike, and a whole generation of Idahoans, Bronco Billy will always hold a special place.
All three of us, my brother and sister, all three of us have the clip on our phone. So it's because it's like, you know, what a better way to think of your mom, you know?
Thanks, Clint. That's cool. And I'll hold on to that for a long time. And 45 years, I've held on to it.
If for some reason you're looking for something to do this weekend and you would like to stream Bronco Billy, it is available on places like Amazon Prime, YouTube, Google Play, Apple TV, and Fandango. You can rent it for a few bucks. Have some more Bronco Billy stories that you'd like to tell us? Why don't you text them in? 208-321-5614. Please include your name and hashtag the 208. Also remember to text us your best dad jokes in honor of Father's Day. Here's some inspiration. 2 drums and a cymbal fall off a cliff. Ba-doom-tsh. Yep. All right, we'll show some of our favorites coming up on the 208 this Monday. The United States Supreme Court still has not made a decision on Idaho's abortion ban, but they came down with another big decision early today, blocking the ban on bump stocks. Here's Morgan Romero with that and more on the 208 news you need to know in the 411.
In a 6-3 ruling along the ideological lines, the U.S. Supreme Court has overturned a federal ban on bump stocks. The controversial firearm accessory allows a semi-automatic rifle to fire more quickly and continuously with a single pull of a trigger. The ban was imposed during the Trump administration following the 2017 mass shooting in Las Vegas, where a man using a bump stock device initially killed 58 people and wounded 500 others. The court held that an almost 100-year-old law aimed at banning machine guns cannot legitimately be interpreted to include bump stocks. Today's ruling does not mean that they will again be available nationwide, as 18 states have also imposed bans on bump stocks.
I fully believed that I'm going to die.
And tonight on the news at 10, we're hearing part 2 of investigative reporter Morgan Romero's conversation with Thomas Creech. A judge sentenced Creech to death in early 80s, saying that Creech, quote, intends to keep on killing and cannot be stopped. Then 3.5 months ago, Thomas Creech narrowly escaped death after 8 failed attempts at lethal injection. Tonight on the news at 10, he reflects on the crimes he's committed and his remorse. And a happy birthday to the Army. They turned 249 years old today. We have a great military community in Mountain Home and all around Idaho. So thank you to everyone who served our country. Today is also Flag Day. According to the United States Department of Veteran Affairs, Flag Day is a day to celebrate the anniversary of the Continental Congress approving this design of the American flag. This happened on June 14th, 1777. The first flag only had 13 stars and stripes for the 13 colonies. Now it has 50 stars to represent the 50 states, but it still has 13 stripes for the original colonies. President Harry Truman signed a bill in 1949 marking Flag Day a day of national observance, but it is not a national holiday. And hey, are you looking to learn some more history this weekend? Well, head on over to the Old Idaho Penitentiary in Boise tomorrow from 2 to 7 for Squawky Fest. Yep, you heard us right. That name comes from the nickname for the homemade alcohol brewed by prisoners at the old pen back in the day, which is fitting because tomorrow's event is a brewery and a cidery festival and competition. There's going to be food, music, and of course, lots of drinks. Tickets are $25 for the 21 and up event, then $4 for the drink tokens. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Brenda Rodriguez.
All right, one last reminder to text us your best dad jokes. Like this one. What's the difference between a bad joke and a dad joke? It's just one letter. Anyways, text us at 208-321-5614 with your name and hashtag the 208. Remember, dad jokes are always clean, but maybe not so clever. And we'll show as many as we can throughout the show on Monday in honor of Father's Day this Sunday. A happy Father's Day to all. All right, comment time. We're going to get to dad jokes on Monday, but for now, let's see what you got. Turn the page there. All right. Former KTVB reporter Roger Simmons was also an extra in the Bronco Billy movie. Yes, Nancy, we actually got to talk to Roger Simmons on Tuesday. You can find our interview and story with him at ktvb.com. This person says, "Hi, my name is Dominic, and I remember when I was a little kid, my grandpa would always tell me stories about the movie and how he saw it in action." It's so cool. So many generations of families have this shared memory. I didn't grow up here, but I really feel like I did, getting to hear all of your memories from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Okay, hashtag 208. Eastwood was also in Boise for our centennial in 1963. I got to shake his hand briefly, chat with him. So cool. That is from Michael in Emmett. Yeah, we heard from so many of you at home that Clint Eastwood was just a down-to-earth, humble, regular old guy. Maybe you come back to Idaho sometime and fit just right in. How do you think about that? This person says, "I remember them filming Bronco Billy. My wife's uncle and aunt had the scenes in it. Thanks." That's from Bob. Yeah, man, it's crazy to go through the old footage and go through the movie itself and just see how many extras there were inside the ranch club, over at the tent scene. I think that was also filmed at the Meridian Speedway, if I have that correct. So thank you, everyone, for sharing your awesome memories with us here on a Friday. We have very much enjoyed this. This is a great comment here. "Hey, all the haters, Clint Eastwood actually filmed in Idaho no matter how good the movie was. How cool is that? Just saying." I agree. There were some comments we got from some folks that say Bronco Billy was one of the worst movies that Clint Eastwood did. We would not call it iconic, and I respect that in terms of a film lens, in terms of how cool is it locally, all-time iconic. All right, thank you folks so much. That is the 208. We will dive into it all next week. Have a great weekend and a happy Father's Day on Sunday.